We're here at the Mikos Hotel where the IMF is hosting a Zimbabwe Vision and Policy Outlook for 2016 as sort of an evaluation or discussion around the finished Staff Monitor Program and Article 4, which it will publish soon. We'll have delegates from government, civil society, diplomats, private sector, and just a diverse range of stakeholders. We're talking about basically where the idea of re-engagement has gotten us to thus far.
Let me first extend a warm welcome to all of you to this roundtable discussion on Zimbabwe's vision and policy options for 2016 and beyond. Zimbabwe is aspiring to reintegrate into the global arena and to transition toward a diversified and vibrant market economy. But how do we get there, and what role can the international community play? Ladies and gentlemen, we have very distinguished speakers today for this event. I hope that the discussion will reinforce the importance of the dialogue among stakeholders and showcase Zimbabwe's commitment to economic transformation, an integral part of which the re-engagement with the international community is. Before we get into the discussion, let me introduce to you Ms. Rubeneko Parinavarta, and she will give us a short presentation on the Zimbabwe I Want. Please, may I ask you to come to the podium.
Thank you all for coming this morning and for this opportunity, all protocol observed. Now, Zimbabwe now cannot be looked at in isolation. I'd rather say that Africa we want, because just to speak of Zimbabwe in a way would be a little bit ignorant, but it is also correct in the sense that we want to be able to do things for ourselves and do better with the help of everyone else. Now, we often hear people criticize that Zimbabwe cannot go it alone. Why do we act like we don't need assistance? Why do we? At the end of the day, I believe in the strong fact that as Zimbabweans, we want to be in a position where, as a nation, every single part of us can do what we need to do, can provide enough food for ourselves, can make sure that our services are provided for, make sure our health industry is catering to the people that need it, as well as then get assistance from outside. Nobody can live on their own in the world today. No man is an island.
When we think of a Zimbabwe we want, we're thinking of a Zimbabwe where there are products and where there are services. And for you to get services and products, there must be institutions. When I'm thinking of a Zimbabwe I want, I'm putting focus on the health industry, the health sector, because this is where I belong to. Zimbabwe we want must be a Zimbabwe where the environment is conducive to sustainable and inclusive private sector-led growth. I think this is the support which then needs to come from the government.
And my opinion is that while it is very important to engage with the international community, it's important to have good relations with the IMF, the World Bank, the ADB, etc., I don't think that that should be the focus of government economic policy. The focus of government economic policy needs to be the domestic economy and the policies that affect the domestic economy directly. That needs to be the focus. The levels of investment that we are getting in Zimbabwe is very poor. So there's something wrong and we need to face that. And I believe the problem is that we need to have good economic governance and we need to have a good enabling environment to encourage domestic and foreign direct investment.
We are also looking forward to further rationalization of the civil service, because it's important. It doesn't matter whether you get help or you don't. If you are on your own, you must be satisfied that how you are running your own affairs, it can be subjected to any scrutiny by anybody. So if we look at the level of recurrent expenditure against capital expenditure, that needs to improve. The Zimbabwe we want must acknowledge that and have demonstrable actions to deal with that issue.
This country has been going through a lot of difficulties. It has been isolated for a long period of time. We now need to reverse that trend and transform the economy within the next 5 years. Zimbabwe is a hidden treasure. It is a new economic frontier. We need to discover it. We are a hidden society. We need to come up on the surface. We need to global integrated society. first I want to highlight our relationship with the IMF. We are a shareholder in the IMF and World Bank and also ADB. And as a shareholder, we are entitled to benefits of membership, which are access to credit at affordable interest rates. When I say affordable interest rates, is in the area of infrastructure, we would expect very low interest rates, not 5%. When you are dealing with power generation plants, we are dealing with roads, which are social infrastructure. We are dealing with schools, we are dealing with clinics. So it's very important to take note of that. But the rules of these organizations say, if you run up arrears, you don't enjoy these benefits. So it's very important. We can remain for as long as we want as a member, as a shareholder. But unless we reach an accommodation with these institutions, it means we are a member but not enjoying the benefits of our membership. That is the first relationship with the IMF and the World Bank and ADB. The second relationship is that of banker and lender. When we are in good reputation, in good standing with these institutions, we borrowed money for social infrastructure, especially social infrastructure, agricultural infrastructure, and many other things. We used to get also balance of payment support and so on. But then events hit us and undermined and crippled our capacity to honor those obligations. So as a result, we have not been paying, and we ran up arrears since almost 1999 up to now. And I'm saying we need to restore a proper relationship banker to lender. Now, what does that mean? It means that if we go, just imagine yourself a borrower from a bank. When you don't pay your debt, your loan, you don't repay. And you know in Zimbabwe, we have a culture of not paying. But let's assume you are one of those who don't pay. But you now want to start a new project, a new program. You go back to the bank. Will the bank give you money? No. It will start with you, if you are serious, it will start with you a conversation to determine exactly what you want to do. And also to ask you why you didn't pay the last loan in the first place. That is the nature of our conversation with the IMF. They are looking at our systems and say, we cannot give you money unless you change the way you are doing things, because what you were doing, the way you were doing, it crippled your capacity to pay. So what new can you tell us to show that if we give you the money, you can pay? That is the conversation. And that conversation led us to look internally to our own systems. Are we doing the proper things? And we said no. Then we come up with a regime of reforms. And then we said, if we do these reforms, it will put us on a sound track, sound macroeconomic management level in the country. So they then said, okay, do it. So we are here, the mission has been here to do two things: Article 5 consultations and also reviewing our staff monitored program targets for end of December. And I thought that Dr. Mangudya was spot on, that as Zimbabweans we should congratulate ourselves for meeting the targets, which basically we got that assessment yesterday.
I think the number of stakeholders who I think overally believe in engagement, but probably we don't have consensus as to how do we engage, who should engage, what constitutes engagement, how do we ensure that we will then succeed in that engagement process. But we all believe engagement is important.
I want to focus on what the minister's closing words were. that we need these institutions to help us to pay the debt. I think the key is to capacitate us to pay the debt, because currently with the economic situation, the drought and El Nino, one wouldn't think that we should be able to pay the debt. But if we are capacitated in a number of areas that were discussed, for example, sound agricultural policies, where we would benefit in terms of implementation of agro-processing, agro-based industries. Then mining, plugging leakages. You heard what His Excellency said about how much we are actually losing, about 15 billion. We could easily pay the debt.
I think the three IFIs are all in the same boat. We are, as you know, jointly preferred creditors, and so this whole arrears clearance is being done in a synchronized way with all three of us, all three of the institutions. We're very comfortable and very happy that the IMF have given the signal that the SMP was done, the targets were met, and also that the government, and to recognize that the government is doing actually quite a bit of reforms that maybe are not filtering out to the public. So, not to be too technical, but the three IFIs have a relationship in the sense that if arrears is owed to any one of us, none of the others can lend. Gotcha. So it has to be a synchronized arrears clearance, which makes it a little complex. But it's been done before. Myanmar, Cote d'Ivoire, all sorts of countries. So there's a lot of experience on how to have the arrears cleared at the same time. Because the arrears are quite different. The arrears to the IMF are quite small. The arrears to the bank are quite large, reflecting the lending that we did before, and the arrears to the African Development Bank are in between. And in the arrears clearance is some level of burden sharing. The government, of course, is taking the brunt of the burden, but none of us can provide any future financing until all the arrears to all three institutions are cleared.
I think it was a very successful event for various reasons. The sheer attendance shows you that there is significant interest in turning this economy around and how to do it. We had representatives from all branches of society, civil society groups, senior government officials, the diplomatic community. So it clearly shows that there's an interest to do something about Zimbabwe's situation, right? That's one. I think it was also very good because it gave the government an opportunity to highlight and showcase what they're actually doing. You might remember that the Minister of Finance said that, you know, one of the things we noticed during that mission, and I keep telling them that as well, that, you know, look, you have to tell us what you do. You have to tell the people, not us, they tell us what you do, because so many good things that are happening are unknown, and then people ask, you know, oh, really? And are surprised. And I think it would be helpful, and that's I think what the minister alluded to, by getting, you know, communication specialists, you know, there has to be more effort on public relations. Thank you very much.